Hey there, and welcome to Tabletop Game Publishing, the Success Formula, your weekly hangout where we break down what it really takes to design, develop, and publish your board game. So if you're aiming to turn your game idea into a published success, this is your formula. This is Tabletop Game Publishing, the Success Formula podcast.
Okay, so once again, we're here to talk about a little bit to talk about the board game industry, and I'm with Hirsch, CEO from Hero Time, board game manufacturer. Hi, Hirsch, how you doing?
Hi, Pablo. Good to see you again.
One of the biggest issues on during the board game design stages that you will find is prototypes.
Yeah, so today we wanted to talk about, because we are writing an article about prototypes. So we wanted to talk about like what are prototypes exactly, where do you make them, how do you make them, and so forth.
Yeah, prototypes. It's as I always say, it's quite a big deal because you will mention because you need to know when do you have to get in contact with the manufacturer to do a prototype, and what is actually a prototype.
Yeah, so I would say people like there's three stages basically where you make like a small version or small production quantity of your game, right? So obviously the first time is when you do playtesting for the game, right? So you playtesting this game with your friends, with your family, and or with other playtester groups, and you want to be able to give them some form of your game, right? So obviously this is way too early. You're still in the game concept. You haven't made any artwork. Last week we talked about how you can utilize AI in order to create this initial version of your game, just to so other playtesters can enjoy it a little more. In a sense, obviously it's not for everyone, but it can definitely help you in that stage. But and that's when you make like a home prototype. Right? So you will take like regular paper, you would put it in a lamination. Um, you will take maybe go to the shop, buy a foam board or buy cardboard and glue onto it something, cut it with a Japanese knife, with those very, very sharp knives. Um, so that will be like the playtesting prototype. In our days, aside from the realistic version, a lot of people also go to Tabletop Simulator.
Yeah,
So they will upload their games online and then everybody can play it.
it's pretty easy to update and change. You can even do a test, change something, and do a test again in just a few minutes. For the prototype, that's quite a for the physical prototype, it's quite complex to do something like that. As you said, those three stages with tabletop similar, I think you can cut that to probably one, which is okay. I have
Exactly.
a really really nice looking that I need to show on cons and need to I don't know show to media. Well, in that point, and get I'm gonna get a prototype, a
Yeah.
physical one.
You mean
You know,
like the second option? Yeah. So like the second prototype actually is done after you already chose your components, you already play tested for 2 months, for a year, or however long you chose, you play tested. Then you have that stage where you already started making your artwork. We already discussed last week that in this case,
yeah,
maybe better to give an actual designer to make your artwork,
yeah, sure,
for this
always.
prototype. And basically at that stage you can start getting actual production copies of your game. So after you chose your components already and you play tested the game multiple times, like 2 year or 2 months or 2 years, however long you took to play test the game,
It doesn't.
then
It
you'll
can be only 2 days. I have a great game that only took one day to come out. I have another one that it took
I
six
don't
years to
know.
come out. So that depends on the game.
Yeah, depends on the game and the game creator also for sure.
Yeah.
And at that stage, you already have your artwork ready, and you want to have a copy to present to media, to present to influencers for crowdfunding campaigns, uh, showcase to other publishers that might take your game on, and so forth and so on. So at this stage, you would usually want anywhere between like 3 and 10 copies, right? Because you can take one copy to cycle it
That's
through
all.
multiple influencers. right? So you want anywhere between like 3 and 10 copies. Until now, the biggest challenge was that you always had these print-on-demand companies. The most notable one and the one we all love and still love is obviously the Game Crafter.
Again, Crafter.
Um, yeah, that's like the father of all print-on-demand companies. Exceptional work. So they will do people will go to them, do their prototypes, but in that case, they don't really get assistance in setting up the files, or they can have the concierge file. It takes 2-3 months to make the game, whatever. They can pay for Express. But then the biggest problem is they're limited by the size of the prototyping company, A. B, the material between that company and your mass manufacturer will not be the same. So you don't really know what you're not comparing apples to apples.
Yeah.
Um,
And you're
and
probably gonna for that transition, you're probably gonna have to do a lot of rework, which I think it's quite costly. Quite so it's something that no one consider in the budget, and if you don't consider doing the files, prepare them to be really ready to print, it's a big issue because you will have a lot of rework there. I know a lot of products, a lot of games that they didn't pass that stage, so they didn't figure out how to do it because sometimes it's quite expensive. Sometimes you get in lost with the communication with the artist and everything, and that was one of the questions. So it why is not better to get in contact since there's first day? And one thing that I have a doubt, if we prepare the files for final printing, can you send those to POD?
yes and no.
No.
POD will usually you work on JPEG or PNG, right? So
Yeah,
it's not
yeah,
you don't, and they print. This is the issue. The POD will mostly print for digital print, right? So they will not really set up your files for mass production print. And I think that's like you were saying, you need to rework your files. So you make your files one time for the prototype print on demand company, the POD company, and then second time you have your mass manufacturer and you redo your files again for the mass manufacturer. But then so logically, and you were telling me this like 3 years ago or 4 years ago when we started, Hirsch, you have to open a prototyping option for game creators. So they can create 5, 10 prototypes to showcase to crowdfunding campaigns. This way they improve their operations, the lower cost. Yeah. And this was another thing. Because a lot of your game cost is actually setting up your file. Like people don't realize it, but let's say first time creator. We know he doesn't have any experience with files. His artwork setup for his game will be more expensive, right? So
yeah,
maybe a very experienced publisher setting up his files for print will take us 20 minutes or 10 minutes. But a first time creator can take anywhere between 2 hours and 1 month, depending on the game
yeah,
creator. So there's actually not hidden costs, but there are costs in the game uh, that are for the setup of the files for print. And and if you do the prototyping first and we already set up your files and then there were no changes, then obviously you can get some of the setup money back, basically lowering your overall cost between prototype and mass manufacturing. So you don't need to pay two separate entities, you only pay one entity. It was also a very big challenge, by the way. People think it's nothing, but actually opening a sample department or prototyping department that can produce for you 20 copies, 10, 15 copies of a game, especially if it's a complex game with wood meeples. You know, you need to mix ink, you need to spray paint, you need to do the laser cutting, you need to set up all these like semi-automated, fully automated machines just to make like 5 copies. People don't realize how difficult it is. But it took us a year to bring it to the point where it's like perfect. You're getting a game. The only thing that we have a limitation on, for example, is mold-based products. Mold-based products are anywhere if you want to do a custom plastic piece, but you wanted the molded version. Yeah, we can make for you a 3D version. You know, but we bought. You remember last year I went and I
yeah,
bought two 3D printing machines. So if anyone has miniatures or anyone has any plastic pieces you want sample for, we 3D print them in house, no problem. But you're not gonna go and make like an injection mold for that piece.
yeah,
Or same like plastic insert, right? When you have a plastic insert for your game, making them, you need to design the mold, right? So the designing the mold is a week. You need to build the mold another 2 weeks. You need another week to make the pieces, and then it's only 5 pieces, and then you make a change. So like
Yeah, I
plastic
think that
inserts, you're also
that
not gonna
actually
make.
you mentioned insert, and I have a few times that I have this conversation with others. So like people say, why don't you make the inserts on 3D? I was like, okay, no. Yeah, no, I don't know if the right answer for it. Actually, to do prototype for a 3D piece, it's I for me, I think it's easier that do it an insert. Insert is quite a big issue. Plastic insert we're mentioning, right? Not the cardboard ones, the plastic ones. So how you do a 5 copies of an insert of a plastic insert?
We
That's
don't really make we don't make plastic inserts
that
for the prototypes. Also, don't forget, most of the prototypes are going to change. If one component changes, the whole insert
change of the
changes.
size. Yeah,
So I don't even
right.
want to spend the time on designing an insert, right? A, B, making an insert with a 3D machine, oh, just such a headache because it's a big piece, it's a heavy piece. These machines are busy. Also, the plastic is expensive. People don't realize, but we pay like 5, 6 cents per gram of plastic. And that doesn't include cleaning the machine, cleaning and everything afterwards, because the 3D you have all the connection points and you need to clean them up. So it's a lot of work for something that anyways it's not gonna stay. If you do a pre-production sample, right? That's something you can say, listen, I'm doing my pre-production sample, but I want to have my insert so I can make sure it's perfect. These are my final components, nothing is going to change. No, this is no problem. Of course you can make it, but for prototyping, pre-campaign, pre-marketing, if it's a paper insert or a corrugated cardboard insert, we can probably make an exception and make it, right? Um, but yeah, for plastic pieces, we don't. And we have another limitation. Again, the same reason, because it's making a mold, is cutting the tokens and player boards. So we use a rotary machine that,
Yeah,
it's a
to the
very
a
thin
CNC.
knife, CNC kind of that. It's a tiny little tabletop CNC. It's not a tiny. The bed of the machine is like 2 meters on 1.8 meters.
Yeah,
So
I think it's the same one that you actually do cutting. You cut boxes and everything, right? It's the same machine.
yeah, you can do cuttings with it. You can do boxes with it. Everything you want. Um, but yeah, the cutting is not as clean as when you stamp cut it, obviously, because it's a knife that spins instead of just like a stamp cut that is a clean cut. So, like, I think that's another limitations. In some cases, when the tokens are extremely important, right now we're working on a game like this that needs proper tokens, So we made the CNC rotary machine token. It's like, no, it's not good enough. I want my proper token. So we made a mold. We printed like 50 copies, and then we cut, adjust, cut, adjust. And then we have like 5 copies to give him. So he's happy with that one. But yeah, these are like the limitations of a prototype when you want to think of it. It's very challenging, I'm telling you. Wood pieces sometimes, like, we also don't want to make wood, because if I make 10 wood pieces or I make 200 wood pieces, it doesn't make any difference.
Yeah.
Meeples, just people understand. One barrel that I use to mix
Hmm.
color and apply color meeples is roughly 5 to 10,000 meeples that can
那个
fit in
小
one
的片
barrel,
你可以放多少里
right?
面？
And
五
now
万可以
Ria is
吗？
telling me you need to
这个
mix
可
Yeah,
以
you
放
have
5
a
万吗？这边
process
可以放
because people is not aware a little bit of how it works about the
一
paint
点点，一点
roll
点，一点
drummer.
大。
Then you put the other part of paint. You also drum again, and then you need to do the cover, the protection cover, and roll again. And then you have one color. You say, okay, I need another one, another color. So you need to remove the pieces, clean everything up, and then start all over again with another color. So
Well, sometimes they complain like, "Oh, why can't you make wood pieces?" Like, we do make wood pieces, but sometimes they want something that during the prototype is very challenging to do. So it's just like linen
The
finish
assembly
also is
line to
another
these
example.
two big
The machine has a
rollers right
linen
here.
finish. It's
Now
a
the
big
rollers
machine,
have the little
and you
lines on
only
them,
have
and
5
those
sheets.
rollers are what gives it the
If
unique
I'm
feel and
anyways
texture
running
that we
linen
all know and
finish,
love. So this
this is
paper does
current
not go
time,
on.
then yeah, maybe I can run your cards as well, right? Um, I'll probably need to print 5 more, 6 more, just in case the pressure of the linen finish for your specific card is not too high, it's not too low, so it needs some adjustments. But yeah, I think it's a pretty good service so far for the prototypes. And it's fairly cheap. Like you end up paying roughly $10-15 a sheet. Like anywhere between, like if it's a small sheet, it's like $7. If it's a large sheet, it's like $15, right? Which includes the printing, the coding, the processing, everything. So I think it's a fairly fair price for game publishers that want to succeed in their crowdfunding or marketing efforts. Yeah.
That's right. And one thing that I don't think if you don't mention it or not, but are we talking about this is going to be the final product? I mean, it's going to be the
Oh yeah.
production.
I mean, some
It can be.
variations to it. It can be some variations to it because we use digital printing. We're not going to use offset printing for the prototype. So there is some minor, not some minors, depending on your colors. There can be a massive discrepancy between like the digital printing and the mass production printing. But again, we have like this artwork guide, also in YouTube videos, the whole series on YouTube. We have the artwork guide, so you can learn how to set up your artwork in such a way that the color consistency between the digital and the mass production and the offset is as close as possible. And obviously, we also have a QC person in the factory that his whole job is to compare your digital print or your sample or whatever it is to the mass production. It's very interesting because we have this X-Rite. It's called, look, it's a small little device this size. We don't use it for all orders. We only use it for orders that are over 20,000 sets, 20,000 copies. But it's like an X-Rite ink measuring machine, right? So the biggest challenge is to always match ink between machines, or even the same machine in different season of the year. So maybe summertime, it's hotter. The ink is a little more liquid.
The humidity, all those conditions change everything.
Yeah.
The humidity in the paper itself. Yeah.
Yeah. It's extremely challenging to have a perfect match. Even the same machine, the same ink, different day, or even same day might be difficult to match the ink and the paper exactly. So what we did is for massive publishers, we have this X-Rite machine that has like a lab test. It's not lab. This is like a holistic view of colors that does anywhere. So it has like a brightness and darkness. That's one axis that it measures. And then it measures a second axis that is between red and green. Like think about the RGB colors a little bit. Yeah. It's a cross in between the RGB and CMYK. It's a color space that lives in between digital and print. So it has the darkness and light. They have the red and green, the blue and yellow. And then you give the machine the target color. So you take the initial printing and you press on it, and it gives you the actual numbers of this color. Once you use, and it has like the benchmark, right? And then you take the machine and you apply it on the other parts of the cards, and it tells you how far away is this print from the original benchmark. It takes a long time to set up this machine and to make sure that you measure every print. It cannot be done for every order, and most game creators don't want to pay more money to get that extra service and quality, obviously. But that machine is very interesting, and it does help us to make color matches. But yeah, generally there will be some color discrepancy between the digital and mass production and offset print, unless your files are very easy to manage, or we will take very good care of it. But like 95% accuracy is already very good. Yeah. Okay. So. Well, yeah, making prototypes with us or with your mass manufacturer is better because he will already know your files, and then when he prints, he already is familiar with it. Yeah, I think that's everything there is to say about like a prototype.
Okay, probably. Cool. So anyway, thank you once again. As you might be aware by watching this and hearing this, is that we're doing this weekly, and the idea is to bring here topics that it will help board game designers to make their games. So if you have any doubt and if you want to say something, just comment. Remember to follow us. Remember to subscribe to the channels. And once again, thank you, Hersh, for your time. It is great. It
Thank
is
you,
always great to
Pablo.
hear what you're doing and what the company is doing. Okay.
Thanks so much for listening. This is Tabletop Game Designer, The Success Formula, a podcast by Hero Time, your board game manufacturing companion. Don't forget to follow and subscribe. And check out our website, herotime1.com. You'll find the article we talked about in this episode, plus a bunch of other cool stuff to help you get your game on everyone's tabletop.